It's been a long time, but hello, my nieces and nephews. It's me, Auntie Tatiana, and I'm here today to give you guys another class. But first, I'm going to address some of you guys' comments. I do read them. A lot of you guys were saying how my energy seemed off, and you were wondering if they got me. Well, I'm here to tell you I'm fine, I'm okay. But sometimes when you're in a position to, spread this kind of knowledge, it can be overwhelming and a lot to take in. So it is healthy to take breaks and recharge, I guess. So I don't know if you guys follow me on my TikTok, but I did a video a while ago talking about angel numbers and how for me the number 347 keeps popping up. This is one of the examples I gave. 347 was the case number for my car getting hit, and it ended up getting totally fixed. And I was explaining how my son's name is Josiah, his nickname is Jojo, and while I was playing Call of Duty online, I saw 347 and his nickname. I'm bringing that up just to say this. While I was on my hiatus, I ended up seeing my angel number. I was actually at work when I saw it, and it just re-inspired me to get back into, doing my videos again, because that was the universe letting me know it's time, you're ready again. So here I am. Now what we're gonna be talking about is this book right here, Worlds Beyond the Poles, written by Amadeo Giannini. And look, I'm just gonna be straight up with you guys. This book was tedious. It was such an unpleasant read for me. Just the way the sentences were structured. It's like one of those things you have to read 3 times to comprehend. And basically I started reading it so you wouldn't have to. However, we're not going to directly talk about the book. I'm going to go in another direction and talk about something else. And when it correlates to what I read in this book, I will bring it up because we got to make it interesting, I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but just a FYI out there for anyone watching, I am not trying to force my beliefs on you or change your opinion on anything. I'm just sharing my thoughts, my opinions, my research with other people that like connecting the dots. So the reason I started reading this book was because I was trying to see how it related to this book, The Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Walls. I wanted to see if the authors had any similarities between what they saw beyond the ice walls. Y'all already know I did a deep dive on this book in majority of my previous videos. So if you want to know about that book, just go to one of my old videos. Okay, so the author of this book never physically, like with their naked eye, seen lands beyond the ice walls. Instead, they used remote viewing. And for those of you that don't know what remote viewing is, it's kind of like astral projection. And I don't want to hear none of the naysayers saying remote viewing isn't real. Here's a book on it called Limitless Mind by Russell Targ, and it'll change your mind about all that. Also, let me know if you guys want me to do a deep dive on this book as well. So before we start deep diving into that book, let's take a look at the Space Force logo. And we see this triangular arrow-like shape. But I don't think they realize that we know what this symbol actually represents. It represents the North Pole. So they're throwing it in your face that space is at the North Pole. I'm not talking space like up in the sky, planets and shit. I mean space as in extra land, extra territory. Because in my Life Before the Ice Wall video, I told you guys how there was a vortex at the North Pole. And we all know how Polaris, aka the North Star, is also located at the North Pole. Now, why would this vehicle company have the way out as their slogan? They're throwing it in your face that Polaris, the North Star, at the North Pole is where the vortex is, and the vortex is the way out. The way out of this realm. Now, while I'm sitting here looking at this Space Force logo, it kind of reminds me of the Stargate logo. And this right here is the Stargate logo for those of you that don't know. And here goes the logo again. And I took a screenshot of this, and guess what, guys? I cannot make this shit up. 347. That's how I know I'm aligned. I'm supposed to be doing this shit. Not to mention, you guys, but in Stargate, they also traveled through these portals. And the portals were made out of what? Water. That correlates with the underwater portals that I was telling you about in my previous videos. But anyways, a closer look at this logo and we see that it has the North Pole symbolism and this circle is the North Star symbolism. And the longer I look at this, it's kind of starting to remind me of this. The only difference is it doesn't have this bottom piece, but it has the North Star and the North Pole symbolism. But upon further observation of this Freemason logo, I see that the top part is actually an adjustable compass. And what are these used for? It allows drafters to draw perfect circles. Let that sink in. A perfect circle, you guys. What does that look like? Yes, it does. Indeed. Moving on. We already know the Freemasons throw it in our faces that they know about the firmament, the sun, the moon, the stars underneath the dome. These are all the astronauts that were Freemasons. We got Buzz Aldrin here at the top. Let's hear what he has to say about him landing on the moon.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen. So
now let's start talking etymology. You look up the etymology for the word planet, this is what shows up. It says, perhaps it is from a nasalized form of Pi root pele, meaning flat, to spread. Planet, meaning flat? Let's keep going. But the semantics are highly problematic. Semantics means the meaning of the word. According to Beeks, who notes the similarity of meaning to Greek plezein, which means to make devious, repel, dissuade from the right path. Why in the hell would planet mean devious and dissuading from the right path? Well, let's look to the Book of Enoch for answers. I'm sorry, y'all, we're like book hopping right now, but stay with me. Not sure what chapter this is, but here we go. And there I beheld 7 stars, like great blazing mountains, and like spirits entreating me. Then the angel said, this place until the consummation of heaven and earth will be the prison of the stars and the host of heaven. The stars which roll over fire are those which transgress the commandment of God before their time arrived, for they came not in their proper season. Therefore was he offended with them and bound them until the period of the consummation of their crimes in the secret year. So let's break this down into simpler terms. There are 7 stars that are being bound by God because they disobeyed him. What does that sound like? It sounds like those stars were being devious. They dissuaded from the right path. Those stars being planets. And there's 7 of those stars, and not including Earth, there's 7 planets. Either way it goes, the etymology of the word planet is suspicious. Now let's reference the Bible for a moment. Job 37:18. Can you stretch out the skies with him and make them as firm as a mirror made of metal? Let's focus on this word right here. When we look up the etymology of the word sky, this is what we get. Down here it says Gothic skugwa, mirror, from Pi root skew, to cover, conceal. Can you imagine the sky being a mirror that's concealing the truth from us? The author of this book thinks so. And here comes the part where I tie it all in for you guys. See how that came full circle? Love it. So the book states that a continuity of the same blue sky we observe from land surface everywhere on the terrestrial is seen by inhabitants of every other universe area when they, as do we, look up or out from their respective land surface positions. Every single being that's been created in whatever realm they're in, when they look up, they see the same blue sky. In looking through their inner blue sky at night, they observe the luminosity of our gaseous outer sky areas in precisely the same manner we observe their outer sky luminosity against the darkness. So basically, they see the same, what looks like planets and stars that we see. But here's the kicker. Those are not planets and stars up there. Those are other lands, other realms. That's where the mirror effect comes into play. Here's another part of the book. It is shown that the theory of isolated stars and planets is founded on illusion, and it was asserted that every celestial area is definitely attached as the human legs and arms are connected with the torso. It was explained that such physical attachment of celestial areas and the physical connections of celestial areas with the terrestrial are always of land, water, or ice. It was further disclosed how at the time conquest of the celestial could be accomplished by penetration of land existing beyond the imaginary North Pole and South Pole, or the true geographic centers of the supposedly isolated globe Earth. That was a whole bunch of jibber jabber. See what I mean about the structure of the sentences is just confusing. But what he's trying to say is the celestial bodies that we see up there are not separated from us. It's all connected, and you can get to them by going past the North and South Pole. So basically the sky is a giant mirror showing you all the realms that you can travel to, but you're not going up to get to them. You have to go past the North and South Pole to go out towards them. What we see in the sky is an illusion. Let's keep going. The recital described optical illusions resulting from the function of the human eye lens, and it was shown that such inescapable error of the lens had to be reproduced and enlarged upon all photographic and telescopic lenses, which are patterned after the optic lens. It explained how lens function demands lens convergence, and how such lens convergence produces the deceptive curvature, which in turn is developed by the lens into disc-like proportion reflecting the roundness of all lenses. It was further related how lens property and function demand that every telescopically observed area of the celestial deceptively appear to be globular and isolated. In simpler terms, because that was just a headache, the lenses that we observe these celestial bodies through are causing a deceptive curvature, meaning that the planets are appearing globular and isolated, but in reality, they are not. Now, you see how this lens is able to distort your perception of what you're looking at? From far away, this would look like what we assume is a planet. The deceptive curvature. It's making it look globular. Here's another example of the lens distorting your perception and giving that globular look. And I think what the author was trying to say was that the lenses are modeled after the human eye, so therefore it's never going to be precise. It's going to be error in it, or flaws in it. We can't assume that what we're looking at is actually in the shape of the lens. Okay, so moving on. Looking up through the inner blue sky enveloping Mars and Jupiter, beheld against stratosphere darkness countless luminous and seemingly isolated disk-like areas. They were known to be areas of the terrestrial sky, but they presented a positive duplicate of the so-called heavens above, as observed from terrestrial land areas. It was then realized that up is at every angle of observation from the terrestrial and the celestial. Hence, up is everywhere, and it is always relative to the particular position occupied in the universe whole. Accordingly, the heavens above are everywhere. Now, when he mentioned the stratosphere, I thought of this picture that was supposedly the first picture taken in the stratosphere of the Earth's curvature. I drew a line just so I can see if I was tripping or not, but I don't see the curvature. I don't see it. If there was a curvature, it would look like that, don't you think? It would look like those fake stratosphere pictures that they show us, like this, because we can see the curve here, but this is obviously a fake image. In reality, it would look more something like this. No curve. Here's an image the author provided trying to better explain, I guess, what he was talking about. But once again, as with the rest of this book, it's very confusing to try to decipher. You can pause and do that on your own time. Now, to further the author's point about this illusion that we're seeing, he says, does the square or U-shaped opening to a tunnel draw together as it appears to do and become globular to our sight as distance within the dark tunnel and away from daylight at the opening is increased? Basically, he's saying the further away you get from the opening of the tunnel, does the opening of the tunnel start turning globular, or is it still, just that shape? Though it deceptively appears to draw together and become globular, experience has taught us that the entrance retains its shape and size. For example, you see the tunnel entrance right here. We know that it looks like this, but the further away you get from it, it will start looking circular. And he's saying, is that the reality, or is the reality that it actually looks like that? I thought that was a good example that he gave. Everything is based off of perception. So you can see the ship right there. We all can see the ship. But as you zoom out and you keep zooming out, well, it's going to keep zooming out. But the further you zoom out, does that mean that the ship is not there? No, that just means it's no longer in your perception. So this curvature that they're talking about, it didn't go over the curve. It's just out of your line of view, your perception. Now, this is just an interesting fact that caught my attention. There is no time zone in the North Pole. We all know time isn't real anyway. Time is another one of those illusions. But for there not to be time at the North Pole, that would mean it really is space. Because in movies, we see that space-time works differently. Of course, you wouldn't have the same time and space as you would on Earth. Now, I don't know how credible this video is that I'm going to show you guys next, but this is apparently the vortex at the North Pole that was captured. Let me know what you guys think. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is sonoluminescence. I just found out about this and I'm just like mind blown. Sonoluminescence might be the answers to everything. So here goes a definition of sonoluminescence for you, but I'm going to show you a video that actually breaks it down into simpler terms, and it's going to leave you speechless because it's literally like the answers that I think we all have been looking for to connect the dots.
Transfixed to look at this spherical flask of fluid, and you look into the center, and in the center see a glowing blue-purple light, which could be seen with the unaided eye. It looked like a star in the heavens.
Seth Putterman called it the star in a jar, a tiny spot of bright light contained in a flask of liquid. This star in a jar is made when a sound wave is passed through a small bubble inside a flask of liquid. And this sound wave makes the bubble do something remarkable. First, it expands, then it collapses. And this collapse happens so violently that vapor molecules trapped inside the bubble slam together and heat up so much that the bubble gives off an incredible burst of heat and light, several thousand times a second, giving the appearance of a star.
So after watching that video, it kind of put a whole different take on when God said, "Let there be light." Let's reference the Bible real quick. This is Genesis 1, by the way. "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light. With his word, it was so." Words meaning sound, vibrations. And what did Nikola Tesla say? If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. If that doesn't leave you guys speechless, I don't know what to tell you, because that pretty much explains everything. So not surprisingly, I have not finished this book yet. I'm still trying to drag my ass through it because it is a tough read. But in part 2, I'm going to talk more about this book, Worlds Beyond the Poles. Of course, we're going to connect some more dots, but I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching. Please leave some feedback in the comments.